In this video, I will explain the concept of Bohr atomic model. So before going to Bohr atomic model, we have to aware about the Planck's quantum theory. Planck's quantum theory. It is suggesting that quantum theory. So it suggests that energy and frequency of the atom is interrelated. So energy is proportional to frequency. So that means energy equals to h into f, where h is Planck's constant and the value of Planck's constant is 6.625 into 10 power minus 27 erg per second. It is in the CGS system. If we asked for MKS system, it will be 6.625 into 10 power minus 34 joules per second, which is in MKS system. So that means which indicates that energy and frequency of the molecule or atom is interrelated to one another. F is frequency of the energy of that particular atom, and E is the energy. And if we consider the Bohr atomic model, before the Bohr atomic model, we have the Rutherford atomic model. Rutherford atomic model, which suggests that atom is revolving. So atom is like a planetary model where the protons and neutrons are sitting at the nucleus, and the electrons will revolve across the nucleus. But this concept is failed to explain the stability of the electron. The main limitation of the Rutherford model is stability. Why? Because as the electron revolves around the nucleus, it loses its kinetic energy and falls into the nucleus, and the total atom will be damaged. Total entire atom will destructed. So the question raises from the Rutherford model is stability of the atom. This is resolved in the Bohr atomic model. It says that electrons in the atom or nucleus, whatever it may be, it revolves in the orbits which are stationary. That means the electrons will have fixed paths of orbits over which it has some specific amount of energy. Which is quantized, meaning that if the electron is revolving in this orbit, it passes only some particular amount of energy. Say suppose if the electron is revolving in this orbit, it passes the energy of 1, and if the electron is revolving in this orbit, it passes the energy 2. Like that, it has only fixed set of energy levels which are quantized. So quantized means the energy will has integer multiple of some basic value, n into some basic value, where n may be 1, 2, 3, 4, any type of number integer, but it has only some fixed amount of energy. So this is the concept of quantization. So it indicates that orbits are quantized. Orbits are arranged in the basis of quantization. Why? Because the energies will have will possess only fixed electrons will possess only fixed set of energy levels. So there is no question of electron falling into the nucleus. If the electron is not falling into the nucleus, then we can claim that the atom is neutral. Atom is stable. As the electron is revolving in this nucleus, in this orbit, it doesn't emit and radiate any energy as long as it is revolving in this orbit. So it is called also as stationary orbits. It is also called as stationary orbits or energy levels. Stationary or energy levels. Stationary orbits or energy levels. Why? Because they possess some sort of specific energy, and and the and the nucleus and the atom may consist of number of orbits around it. It is defined by a quantum number which is known as principal quantum number. Quantum number, which is defined as principal quantum number or Bohr's integer. Bohr's integer. So it indicates that if the value of that energy level is 1, say suppose the value of orbit is 1, then it is and the principal quantum number is defined in terms of n, small n. If the quantum number is 1, if the orbital having the energy of 1, that means n equals to 1, so it is known as shell. It is known as some shell, or we can call it as first orbit. We can call it as first orbit, and it is also defined as K shell. K shell. If the orbit is second orbit, then the quantum number becomes 2. We can call it as second orbit, and the shell becomes KL, L shell. Like that, if the value becomes 4, if the orbit becomes 4, then the principal quantum number becomes 4. It is denoted as fourth orbit, or it is also known as L shell. So these shells are named according with the arrangement of K, L, M, N up to so on. So this arrangement comes with the number of the position of the orbit from the nucleus. It is the first orbit and this is the second orbit. If we draw another thing, it will becomes third orbit and it will becomes fourth orbit, like that. It will continues forever. One thing we have to consider is, as the orbit is increases, as the in value increases, the energy of the electron also increases. In that particular orbit, the energy of the particular orbit also increases, and the orbit number also increases. Orbit number also increases. If the in value increases, ultimately it means it is the it directly represents the orbit number. That orbit number also increases, and the energy of that orbit also increases. That means the electron which is in that orbit is also increases, and the electron revolves around the nucleus only in the integer multiple parts, like I have discussed in quantized concept. Like it will, if the electron is revolving around the orbit around the nucleus, if the electron is revolving around the nucleus, it possesses some kinetic energy, some angular velocity. which is equals to MVR, which is equals to integer multiple of something quantity, which is integer multiple of something quantity. This quantity is fixed, which is the basic which is h by 2 pi. This h by 2 pi is constant fixed value, and the n is depends upon the orbit which we have taken. Say suppose if it is n value is 1, so we can substitute n equals to 1 and we can find the parameters of velocity of the electron. We can consider n equals to any value 1, 2, 3 up to any value. We can consider up to infinity. It will possess any value, but it has a only fixed value 1, 2, 3, 4 like that. It doesn't have any number such that 1.5, 1.6 like that. Why? Because this energy chunk is known as energy packet. This energy chunk we can call it as energy packet. It comes with the multiples of packets, but not integer value packets. So that we can conclude that thus this angular momentum of the electron is quantized. Angular momentum of the electron is quantized. Why? Because it comes with only integer values, not the fractional values. It comes with only integer values. Okay. Another concept is, if the electron wants to jump from this orbit to another orbit, from lower orbit to higher orbit, lower to higher. So consider if the orbit at the first orbit it passes lowest energy and it wants to jump to fourth orbit, which is highest energy. So in order to do that, it has to gain the energy. It has to gain the energy to jump from lower orbit to higher orbit. Okay. If the electron wants to jump from fourth orbit to first orbit, that means higher orbit to lower orbit. So it needs to lose energy. Okay. This gaining and losing of electron is proportional to energy that is taken by the electron, h nu, which is taken by the electron energy in terms of frequency. So that means E2 minus E1 equals to h nu. That means this energy difference between these two energy levels is directly related to that the energy is gained by electron at that moment. If the electron energy is gained is some value, that means the difference between these two orbits is that much of energy. Say suppose if it is taking some 100 units of energy from the external body. It is taking 100 units of energy and it is jumped to fourth orbit. So that means these two energy levels are, the energy difference between these two energy levels are 100 units approximately. I am not saying exactly, but it is approximately h nu, 100 units. It is approximately nu. I will write once again. E2 minus E1 is proportional to nu. It is proportional to frequency of that energy taken or lost. So if we take the proportionality constant, it will becomes E2 minus E1 equals to h nu. So this thing we have to consider in this Bohr atomic model, and we have to focus on these three concepts. One is quantization, another one is MBR equals to NH by 2 pi, and the E2 minus E1 equals to h nu. And the electron balances its energy by if the electron is rotating. Say suppose if the electron is rotating, it passes some centrifugal force. Centrifugal force. So it is counteracted by electrostatic force. So if the electron is wants to due to electrostatic force, what happens means the electron is attracted towards the nucleus, but due to the centrifugal force it is pulled up outwards the atom. So these two forces will be counteract to one another. So that means these two energies are equal and opposite to one another. So that means the electron will never fall into the orbit. It will never fall into orbit. It will constantly rotates into the orbit. It will constantly rotates into that orbit only. And next concept is merits and demerits. Merits and demerits of this orbits, this Bohr concept. Okay. So what is the main merit of the Bohr orbit? First thing is it is able to explain the single electron atoms. Single electron atoms like hydrogen. It is successfully explained the atomic configuration of hydrogen and helium plus and lithium 2 plus. Why? Because helium plus consists of only one electron. Why? Because it is lacked one electron, and lithium lacked 2 electrons, so that it is consists only one electron only. It consists only one electron. Okay, and it's also explains the stability. Why? Because if the if any electrons wants to know its energy, it's only defined by principal quantum number. No such thing is involved to explain the stability of the electron except principal quantum number. So if the n equals to 1, it is in the first orbit, so that there is no question of falling the electron into the nucleus. So it is clearly manifested in the Bohr concept. And the third concept is the radius and energies. Radius and energies are closely to the experimental values. In the Bohr's merits, Bohr concept, the radius of the atom and the energy of that particular orbit is very near to the experimental values. Spectral lines of hydrogen is matched near to the experimental values. So these things we have to consider for the exam point of view. And coming to the concept of demerits, it's only able to explain the single electron atom, but it's failed to explain multi-electron atom. It is able why? Because it is able to explain only lithium plus 2 ion only, not the lithium atom itself. Why? Because lithium consists of 3 electrons and lithium ion consists of only 1 electron. So it's failed to explain this lithium atom, multi-electron atom, and also it is failed to explain the Zeeman effect and Stark effect. So we know that the Zeeman effect, what is the Zeeman effect is spectral lens. If we place spectral lens in the electric field, it will the spectral lines will split. It is known as Zeeman effect, and if it is placed in the magnetic field, the spectral lines will split, and that phenomena is known as Stark effect. These two concepts are failed to explain by the Bohr's atomic model, and basically this total Bohr model is a flat model, 2D model. More clearly to say, it is a 2D model. It's not a it is not able to specify the dimensions of the atoms in three dimensions or more dimensions, and it is only that, and the another limitation is it is only assumption that electrons should possess a stability by putting the value of 1. It's an assumption. It is assumption, but it is work finds for only single electron atom. But this assumption has no scientific explanation to explain the Bohr's model. And last thing is quantization. Quantization is a limitation for the Bohr atomic model. It is explained in a manner that there is no specific reason to validate the quantization concept. Why we have to take some integer multiples in into h by 2 pi. Why it is like so, it is unable to explain by the Bohr's model. And the last thing is Heisenberg uncertainty. Heisenberg uncertainty tells that delta p into delta x must be greater than or equals to h by 2 pi. This is a limitation of the observable universe and the observations. Every observation has this limitation. Momentum and the position of the electron or anything must be greater than h by 2 pi. It should not be less than h by 2 pi. It is not explained in this Bohr concept. So these are the limitations and merits and the concept of Bohr's model.